This is Geek Gab with your hosts, Dornall and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. Geek Gab for Saturday, July 8th, 2023. Dornall, how was your week?
Hey man, it's good to be back. My week's been pretty good. Uh, I haven't done much in the way of geeky stuff other than fitting in some games of Wingspan in between tasks at work. I've been playing that online a bit with the fiance. Wedding planning is going well, swimmingly indeed. We're way ahead of the game on just about everything, so that's looking good. How stuff isn't going as quickly, but isn't that how it is? That's how it goes.
You ever seen The Money Pit?
I have not. I
It's
do
a
I I do remember the image, the photo of as a Tom Hanks one, right?
yeah.
The the two characters just looking at this crater where the house was. I remember seeing something like that.
It's a comedy. I haven't seen it. Supposedly it's really funny and it'll probably make you feel better about your house because
Yeah, probably.
you can look at it and say, you know what? At least I don't live in that house.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. And it you could be tempted to call my place a money pit, but it's really not. It is going to get really expensive for a minute, but um, I'm not going to say it qualifies as a money pit yet.
um, well, that's good news. I mean, there are just some things that are black vortexes of money that just suck them up, and it's nice to know your house isn't. Um, and all the jokes, honestly, that come to mind with black vortexes of money are all like political because they're all government things. That's all I can think about.
Black vortexes of money. A liberal arts degree from
Oh,
an institution. Uh,
I
let's
was I was thinking of like uh military
military hardware.
hardware. Yeah, that's
uh,
infamous for.
Solid gold toilet bowls at the Pentagon. What else? A screwdriver for the Pentagon. I heard those go for like 10,000.
Yeah.
What else?
So,
Vortexes of money. Um, to estate investment schemes. What else?
oh yeah, bitcoins. Those bored ape pictures.
The
Appar-
NFTs.
Apparently, Justin Bieber bought a bored ape picture. This is a news story that I saw this week. Justin Bieber bought a bored ape yacht club picture a few years ago when they were hot for 3.1 something million dollars. 3.14, I think, million dollars. And today
Wow,
it is worth
$5.
$38,500. Now, I am not surprised that it lost money because I was predicting that back when, those were hot. I was predicting that was like the tulip bulb craze in Holland. Um, but what is astounding to me is that it's still worth $58,000.
It's
Who
obscene.
who could you find to pay 59 grand for a picture on a blockchain? What the hell, people? I mean, and I said, you know, basically I said in my tweet that's still $57,999 too much. And people were upset. They're like, what, you're saying that's worth $1? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, look at cosmetics in video games. People pay more than $1 for that crap. So yeah, it's at least worth $1 to somebody to buy a picture on a blockchain. It's a little picture. People spend more of that buying, Reddit stuff for their avatar, or little pictures for their um, uh, AVIs on Twitter. They get somebody to make a little caricature of them. People spend money like that on art. $1 isn't unreasonable for a little picture, a little piece of art that you own. Okay, I buy that. It's worth $1. Probably worth more. But $58,000? I mean, I'll confess something. My picture cost me more than $1 because it came from a failed Kickstarter.
There's the Simon Hogwood owning a boat nailed it.
Oh yeah, boat sold.
There's a huge difference between the the custom commissioned artwork and well, whatever they're doing with NFTs.
3.14 million. We need to move on because I'm just going to be saying that for like an hour. I couldn't believe it even when that was like a common thing.
Yeah.
And then people were getting them stolen from hackers because apparently there was a built-in algorithmic weakness in some of the exchanges that you couldn't get them back because that's just the way the blockchain worked. That I was like, holy crap, that's an even bigger ripoff than I thought. And I thought that was the ultimate ripoff. So, yeah, nope.
A fool
And
and
I
his
don't
money,
know,
as they say.
you could have had any picture that you could buy sold as an NFT, and the Bored Apes became like the fad thing. What the hell was that about? I don't get it. Yeah. So that, I guess that was the one news story I remembered from this week that wasn't political. But boy, cameras sure are failing in the White House.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been I mean, yeah, I know we stay away from that stuff on the show, but it's also remember this time of the summer, it's also Supreme Court decision week, so
Oh yeah,
uh,
that was fire.
all those decisions were published, made a while back, but it's not as lively as when Roe v. Wade was overturned, but it's if you're the type of person that actually pays attention to that stuff, I'm sure you're entertained, which is part of the point. One time, I had an opportunity recently to listen to a broadcast of Fox News, and it's just depressing entertainment for one side of the aisle. Uh, I the only reason to watch anything like that is just to get yourself riled up because you enjoy the outrage. And that's all. That's as far as I'm going to go on our forbidden topic for today.
Well, yeah, and that's why I'm trying to move away from that stuff on my Twitter account. I've just stopped doing like culture war stuff and politics stuff for the most part because I don't know. I just don't want to be rage bait on Twitter, you know? I
Yep.
mean, if you want rage bait on Twitter, there are, literally millions of other accounts besides me. I want to be like something positive and uplifting and uh, entertaining. I mean, it's not like I don't have political opinions and I don't express them, but most of my opinions are cultural, and not in a culture war sense, but just like, um, here's why beautiful things are good and why
Mm.
we should have them. And here's something cool that I liked, or here's a great picture I came across. I want people to come to my account now and find something that lifts their spirits for the day instead of something that is depressing or rage inducing or whatever. Um,
I
you
get you.
just get the real world nowadays and people nowadays. I mean, there's just so much going on that has made me lose faith in the human race, or made me angry, or could easily make you just hate people. And I want to get away from that. It has overwhelmed my ability to, it has damaged my calm. So I don't want to be the account that just retweets everything that makes me angry. I'm done. I'm done with that.
Daddy
I'm trying
Warpig, I want you to be the change that you want to see in Twitter.
to I want to be a good guy that lifts people's spirits. That's basically it. So I've kind of adopted the same policy on my Twitter account that we've had on the show since the beginning. Not perfectly, but I'm really trying. I just want people to, you know, talk about good stuff. Talk about stuff we enjoy. Talk about role playing games and comics and things, and uh, about the good things about it that are great. So, yeah,
I love those things. You mentioned role-playing games. It's one of my
yes.
favorite things. Really exciting stuff, aside from the terrible stuff that happened, speaking of negative Twitter, but really exciting stuff is happening in the AD&D, the Broasar space. Um, more and more people are using one-to-one time. More and more people are exploring the consequences of playing those rules as they were written. Um, I mean, the gift of Secrets of Blackmoor, what that's opened to us, and all the experiments in Trolopulus and other games, people are still exploring that, and there's been a marked change in the conversation on Twitter and social media. Um, the persistence of folks like Jeffro and um, Mr. Wargaming and others in that sphere, they've really paid off. Just it's that daily work, that consistency of here's here's what we uh, here's what we observed, and here are our findings. Right, here's the evidence. Here's the play reports. Here's how my players in particular reacted to, for example, not being able to stop the game at the end of the night in the middle of the dungeon, right? The game world keeps going. Well, the game doesn't stop, right? And that's not only is it sort of interesting academically, but you can replicate it across tables, and it just keeps happening. Really good stuff. And the persistence of those of us playing those types of games and talking about it has created that momentum of positive thinking and positive action. I'd love to think that it's a model for, I mean, I said it in jest a minute ago, but for being the change that you want to be in your particular peer group or hobby or culture or whatever. Just do the right thing and consistently put in the work. It's really fascinating. Um, Twitter made it difficult to read when you don't have an account, so I don't blame you if you don't follow these guys anymore. Um, but Daddy Warpig follows them, so if you have Daddy Warpig's account, check out his interactions with the other Broasar guys. Really fascinating stuff. More and more people are seeing Jeff Rose How to Win at D&D, his preview of his upcoming book. It's like 40 pages of really well-written stuff about the nature of the game. I can't recommend it enough. Mr. Wargaming just did. That's Joy of Wargaming here on YouTube. I think it's just youtube.com/Joy of Wargaming. He just recently did a video review of it. Great stuff. Much better review than I can do. I know I'm rambling a little bit. It's been really exciting to play D&D these days. The Trollopulus game itself, and I feel I can start to spoil things right now because there is currently a face-to-face game in progress where one of the characters in that game is in trouble with the local authorities. He's actually on trial for homicide, which that seems like a weird charge in the murder hobo game, but the important part is that this resulted from the always on campaign, that Brownstein style game where all the players are interacting with the game master through email, Discord, Twitter, whatever, because a thing or two that some of the characters did has had an impact in the game world, and all of a sudden a whole like 3 or 4 different threads going back months of game time. Starting with the infamous flail snail trap scenario. All these things where a couple of players and a henchman were captured, thought killed, but apparently they were captured and not killed by some bad guys. That has caused a series of events that has led to a character in a different game, in the face-to-face role-playing game. All of a sudden, he's in trouble because of the actions of the bad guys and some of those guys, and there might be a gnome involved. There might be some other characters involved. We don't know. We'll find out. Absolutely crazy. These are the sorts of things that, and if you've played RPGs, you know what I'm talking about, and if you don't, you've probably checked out by now. But if you are the game master and you want your players to have interesting and fun adventures and crazy things happening, and you're coming up with all this stuff in between sessions, you can spend hours at your notebook or your prep station going, oh yeah, and wouldn't it be cool if so and so tried to do this and did this, and the players show up next week and I say, well, guess what, someone tried to do this while you were where you were training or resting up or something like that, right? And it takes hours. It takes hours to do what a few players in a Discord chat can do in 30 minutes. And what they come up with is better. I don't care how creative you are as a dungeon master. You can have the coolest, most creative setting for everybody to act in, but when it comes to crazy things happening in the game world that the players get to interact with or respond to, nothing beats having other groups of players interacting with that world, and they'll come into conflict naturally in all sorts of different ways. Really cool stuff. It's great to see it in action. And I wish I could explain it to you in a little bit more detail, Daddy Warpig. I am privy to some of the details of the weird posts on Jeffro this week, but I have to keep my lips sealed for the remainder.
All right. Yeah, there are a lot of things that are being revived from 70s gaming culture that were not transmitted strongly in the move to in the move to 80s gaming culture. And so people just didn't know about them, and so didn't play them anymore. And it turns out those things, and we're talking about, and we've talked about them on the show before, one-to-one time during downtime. So that in between sessions, time moves at a rate of one real day for one in-game day, which is standard for AD&D. Other games had different rates. And other similar rules just weren't used for the last, 40 years. They turn out to have great effects on play that are, the effects of these rules are really revolutionary, and they can be applied to games other than AD&D or D&D variants.
And I want to jump in there. Famously, the World of Darkness games took on those wargaming aspects, particularly in their live action role playing sessions. They always used one-to-one time. If you wanted to travel to another city and play your vampire, you have to make it on that day of the week, and your character is physically in that city for that night, right? And it was a nonstop player versus player environment in the style of a Brownstein. They famously kept those traditions where those play styles and those rules were lost to the rest of the gaming community.
Yeah, they either kept them or they reinvented them. So what we're seeing now is those rules are starting to break out. They're starting to reach a larger and larger audience right now, just in the OSR. But I predict, and again, I can't remember a time where I've said I predict in connection with the birth of the pulp revolution or, the spreading of the OSR where I've been wrong. So I predict that you're going to see some of these things become design points in future games, where people who are probably first in the OSR writing their own games are going to start putting one-to-one time and other aspects of, Jeff Rogaxian timekeeping and other things into their games, because they are seeing what's happening with them and people using them, and try them out themselves and like them and say, okay, this is how you should be playing your OSR game, and these are the rules you should be using. Whether they credit the Bro SR or not, I predict that it's going to have an influence because of the sheer number of games being produced nowadays. It is a golden age of game publishing, of indie game publishing. I just predict that people are going to start using them, and then that's just going to help them spread more. So, yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to watch a culture shift like that happen in real time.
All right. Speaking of shifts,
let's shift into the topic of today's show.
Yes, indeed. So I watched a couple of movies, and you said you might be able to go see them, but maybe not.
I wasn't able to see him, no.
All righty. So I went and saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And I also went and saw Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, Out of the Spider-Verse.
The Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay. Although it's not really Spider-Man, it's Miles Morales. Who's not Spider-Man because he's just not. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So
he's not Spider-Man. He got to be in a Spider-Man comic book for a while.
They should have given him a different name. There's so many different Spider names you can give him. Miles Morales is not Spider-Man. Sorry, you can call him Spider-Man all you want. You can give him more powers to try and make him seem cooler than Spider-Man, but he's not Spider-Man. He's just not. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a bad character. He's just not Spider-Man. Well, since I'm ranting about Miles Morales, let's get that movie out of the way first. The first movie, and this is a direct sequel to the first movie. The situations in this movie follow on from the first movie, although it does not have Kingpin or Doc Ock and those other things. If you saw the first movie and liked the first movie, I think you'll like this movie. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was an enjoyable movie. It had a lot of good action. It is a bit bonkers for several reasons. It's all about the multiverse thing, which I guess people are starting to hate. And it's a comic book movie, which I guess some people are starting to hate. So if you hate comic book movies now, then you're not going to like this. It's a good movie. It's a well-made movie. The first movie had its own unique, distinctive animated style. And it's computer animated. A lot of people, Pixar came out and established their own artistic style. And the difficulty with animated movies is they were so popular that everything else was either trying to be close to Pixar or trying to get away from Pixar, and many times they did it in a bad way. There are a lot of computer animated movies that did strong things in their own style that were great. And I'm blanking on the name. Go Surf? Surf's Up. Surf's Up. I love that movie with a passion you don't even know. I will rewatch that movie so many times. It had Jeff Bridges and the young actor who was in Fury and Holes and the Transformers.
Shia LaBeouf?
Shia LaBeouf in it as voices. It was because it's an animated movie. They were voice acting. Such a wonderful movie, great animation, and it was all of the uniqueness was down to the artistic style of the characters. You know how in classic animation, Warner Brothers had a distinct style that was very wacky, and the characters were distorted a lot. Their necks stretched out. Daffy's bill flipped around his face or fell off. It was a very surrealistic style, whereas Disney was a very staid style. The characters had models and they stayed on model. They didn't do as wacky stuff. Betty Boop had her own distinct animation style. So it was a very distinct artistic style, how the characters were modeled, but it was still in a concrete computer animated world. Whereas the first Into the Spider-Verse movie had a really strong artistic style that was almost hand painted or hand drawn. And it gave the movie this very unique appearance. And this second movie sort of leans into that even more. And I've seen some people who are annoyed by it. They really hate it. I thought it was, I didn't love all of what they did, but I thought it was a very strong choice. And and it was really cool in many places. Sometimes I felt like they went too far, but it was really well done and really cool in a lot of places. And it really helped when they switched worlds from from universe to universe to show they were in a different place because they had different strong artistic styles for each world that established the character of that world, that established the feel of that world almost instantly. You could tell you were in a different world, and it had, because it had a different feel to it. And it was like reading a comic book with artists who had different strong styles. Like Bill Sienkiewicz, he developed a really strong style. And if you look at Elektra Assassin or the covers to the New Mutants comics, he had a style that was so unique and so strong, it just stood out from everybody else. And so one of the characters who was punk rock Spider-Man, I think his name was literally Punk Spider, he was done in kind of a Sienkiewicz style. And it was a little bit annoying in places because it was really hard to watch, really hard to see the character himself. But it also matched the character and matched his personality, matched the world he was from. And so it immediately established some things right out of the gate. And it made sense for the multiverse. Just like Spider-Man Noir in the original movie was all in black because his world was black and white, and so on and so forth. The very first villain you meet is Vulture, but it's Vulture from a world that's entirely done in the style of Leonardo da Vinci drawings. So it's on brown paper with black line drawings, and his gear and his gadgets are all done up as if they had been drawn by Da Vinci. And it gave him a strong feel, not only in the art, but it affected who the character was, what his costume was, what his abilities and gadgets were, and it all formed a coherent whole. In other words, this isn't just a visual tag. It isn't just some extraneous flavor on the screen. It was thought out and thought out to an extent that it formed a unified whole. They made a character, not just flashy animation. And you've got to respect that.
It's a clever conceit. I like it.
Yeah, they took the time to think it through. They took the time to make it matter. The art style mattered. And in with they call her Spider Woman. It's Gwen
Gwen Stacy.
Spider Gwen in the comics, Gwen Stacy. Um, her room in her house looks like it's done in water paints, like it's been painted in water paints or in thumb strokes in paint. I mean, you could almost see someone painting it with their thumb. And when she's sad, it's all in blues and purples. And when her dad comes in and she's sad and she's upset and she's feeling alone and lonely, and then her dad is talking to her and he's doing the dad thing and he says something to make her feel better and she feels love for him and she feels warmth because he's showing how much he loves her. All of a sudden, the room itself warms up and the shades switch to pinks and subdued pastel oranges and yellows. Literally the room warms up to show her emotions as she jumps up and gives her dad this big hug. And so in her world, the colors around her respond to her emotions, and you can see, and the emotions of other characters. And she's a female character, and it's very responsive to her like that. And it's a very emotional world. And it's very touching and it's very sweet. And it's very feminine. And so they make her character, they emphasize the femininity of her character through the animation style and through how the world reacts to her. And with her father, the colors around him, when he's doing his big moment, are cooler masculine colors, are stronger colors, and they're greens. When he's doing his big moment, they're greens. So he's not cold and depressed, but he is being masculine and strong, and they respond emotionally by shifting towards greenish yellow and yellows. So that he doesn't have pinks or oranges. And so they didn't just do this outre animation style out of the blue or off the cuff. They really thought it through for the characters, and it's just lovely. So the movie is exciting. It's got, some great characterization.
This reminds me a bit of when the first one came out, where it's not as bad as this time, where Spider-Man, the first Spider-Verse one, didn't do so great, but people who saw it, including you and me, were like, no, it's actually pretty good, pretty fun to watch. But people aren't rushing to see it in the theater because they're tired of the cape stuff. They're tired of the multiverse stuff. But I'm hearing the same thing that I heard from you. I'm hearing the same thing that I heard from the first Spider-Verse. Like, yeah, you might be sick of that stuff, but look, it's pretty good.
It's a fun movie. I enjoyed it. And it's it's not a flop. It's successful. It's making a profit, and especially in this year, it's doing really well. It's not a billion-dollar blockbuster, but it's doing really well, and so I'm happy for it. This movie deserves to do well. It's a good movie, so I enjoyed it. I give it a thumbs up. I give it a recommend, especially if you like the first movie. And yeah, there are a billion Spider-Men in the movie. And they're pretty funny and interesting. The ones that get screen time. And they do some great stuff with their multiverse. And there are callbacks to some of the famous spider memes that are kind of amusing. You're glad they put. I'm glad they were in there. They were kind of cute, and they weren't like shoehorned in or like obvious and bad like some of the memes have been. They were just kind of cute. They were done like the Sonic movie where they were there and they were just kind of cute. They were not heavy-handed or stupid. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Cool. A glimmer of hope. That might be. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking this way. That might be something I catch on streaming, which is how I saw the other SpiderVerse. Cool stuff. I don't think we can say the same things about the box office for the other movie you saw, though.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It had a worse opening weekend than the Solo movie. Indiana Jones had a worse opening weekend than the Solo movie. The Solo movie being notoriously a flop for Disney, the first Star Wars movie to lose money. It had a $225 million budget. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny has a $300 million budget.
Wow.
So it is almost certainly to lose money for Disney, and probably a lot of money for Disney. Disney has lost $900 million in its movies over the last several years. And Lucasfilm is a big part of that. There were three franchises that came out, or three IPs that came out of Lucasfilm. That's Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Willow. And they have killed all of them. Willow TV series being so bad that after a few months, they pulled it from the Disney Plus streaming service. It was made for Disney Plus as a tax write-off. And so it's gone. It's disappeared. You can't watch it anymore. It's not available on DVD or anything. It is just vanished into the ether.
Wow.
And, you know, Star Wars infamously being the Star Wars disaster that it's become. And it looks like Indiana Jones's fifth movie is as big a financial disaster. People are just not wanting to go see it, or just not going and seeing it.
Not interested in going to the theater, no.
I want to say this. Indiana Jones is not what everybody feared it would be, but it's not a good movie. It is a mediocre movie. It's an action movie that's not very exciting. And it's blah. It is not execrable. It's not a steaming pile of repellent refuse, but it's not very good. I wouldn't recommend it. But it is James Mangold, the director. And I should have looked up what other movies he has directed right before the show, so it'd be fresh in my mind. but he's not a bad director. He's made good movies. And you can see in Indiana Jones, he is trying very, very hard to make a good movie. He made Logan, Ford versus Ferrari, and Walk the Line. I liked all of those movies. And so he made the Wolverine, which people seem to have liked. I haven't seen it. Night and Day, which is a great action movie. 310 to Yuma, which was really good.
Yeah, I liked that one. That was a good remake.
Copland, which I love. It's such a good movie. So he's a good director. And you can see him struggling to make a good movie in the face of executive interference for what they demanded be put in the movie. And he put them in the movie without making it what everybody assumed it would be. And everybody assumed it would be Solo or whatever super, you know, super trash the old guy, elevate the new guy movie you've seen.
Sure, yeah. The kill off the past. They thought it would be another The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to defend the movie, and I'm not trying to make you think, oh, I should go see this. So everything I'm about to say should not be taken as a recommendation. It is just me telling you what the movie was. And also me telling you what the movie should have been or what's bad about it. Indiana Jones is there. He's not the hero. Indiana Jones should be the hero in an Indiana Jones movie. That's who he's always been. He should be the top dog. He should be the number one. He should be the most impressive character. He's always been the most impressive character. Everybody else is second to Indiana Jones. That's how the movie should go. That's what an Indiana Jones movie is. He is not the most impressive character in this movie. However, he is not, and this is a phrase from TV tropes, he is not the butt monkey. In far too many modern movies, the person who should be the hero or was the hero is made the butt monkey. They are made deliberately incompetent, made to look bad, so some other character who's the brand new character, typically female, can be made to look like a super duper awesome strong character. That does not happen in Indiana Jones. He's not made to look bad to elevate another character. However, he is placed on absolutely equal footing with this other brand new female character whose name nobody can remember because they are so forgettable, played by Phoebe WallerBridge. You complained about an actor that I like being a black void of charisma.
Yes.
And you can remember the name probably. I can't right now. Because
We were probably talking about either Gerard Butler or
Gerard
Sam
Butler.
Worthington. Sam Worthington's worse, but
yeah. Gerard Butler, I disagree with you, but Phoebe WallerBridge is a black hole of charisma. I just do not understand how this woman keeps on getting roles. She should not be a lead. She shouldn't just. I
sometimes
weep
it's
for
like that.
Hollywood. And she is placed on an equal footing with Indiana Jones in this movie. And her character doesn't deserve it. As an actress, she doesn't deserve it. She does not have the charisma, and she does not have the doesn't have the looks. She is not an attractive woman.
Sorry, you may not like it, but if you want to be a lead in Hollywood,
she isn't a Mary Sue, but she's not perfect. She doesn't do everything effortlessly and stuff like that. But so you can see James Mangold is really trying hard. This character was mandated by Kathleen Kennedy because superhuman brunettes are in every movie she makes. And you'll just have, and every series she makes, and you'll just have to go back and verify that. I retweeted a tweet that listed them, and it's astonishing. She's not, she shouldn't be on par with Indy. And I'm going to do some spoilers here. I'm sorry.
we can spoil crap. It's okay.
Those of you who don't want to have this movie spoiled should probably, fast forward for the next few minutes. At one point in the movie, these bad guys come into Indiana Jones's university where he's working. And to prove they're bad guys, they shoot two people for no good reason. Just because they're there. They could talk their way out of it. They could, whatever. They just shoot the two people. So they are clearly murderous bad guys. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character locks Indiana Jones. She steals this artifact from Indiana Jones after misleading him for the last 10 minutes of the movie, or 5 minutes of the movie, or whatever. It felt like 10 minutes. She's his goddaughter. She's the daughter of his good friend who we've seen since the beginning of the movie. She locks him in a cage with these bad guys in order to steal the Dial of Destiny, escapes through a window, and just runs away. So she is completely unlikable. She's a villain at that point. She hasn't killed anybody, but she's a villain. She smooched Indiana Jones, used her emotional connection with him to get in good with him, and then stole from him an artifact her own dad said was so dangerous it should be destroyed, and then ran. And then there's this foot chase across the roofs of New York, and we're supposed to be thrilled by all the jumping and running, but we don't care because she's a villain.
Yeah, we want to see Indy catch up with her.
Yeah, we want to see Indy catch her and take the dial from her. Why would we care about her? Why would that? What are the stakes of this foot chase? Why would we, in any way, shape, or form, feel anything for her? Why would we care? Nobody cares. So it was just a complete emotional misreading of the audience. We don't care about this character, so the foot chase isn't exciting. The director tries really, really hard to take all of these notes and all of these demands for the script and make a good movie anyway. He tries hard to make it an Indiana Jones movie with exciting chases and stuff that are different than previous Indiana Jones movies, so the audience has something different to thrill at. He tries to put in, a different ick factor than was in previous Indiana Jones movies. He's using all the creativity he has to take this mess of garbage and make something great out of it. But it is, at the end of the day, still garbage. I mean, I got notes here. I took notes. It misses the feel of the Indiana Jones movies, that is, archaeology and wilds and antique places. It had horse chases and car chases in cities, and we don't need that twice, especially in 1969 New York. She's supposed to be an old friend, but we got no sense of the camaraderie that we got from, say, his friend in Temple of Doom. I don't remember if you remember the introduction to Temple of Doom, but he had his friend there who was the Asian guy who I can't remember the character's name, but he got shot or poisoned or stabbed or something, and he died. And he said, I can't have any more adventures with you. Into the great unknown I go first. And you actually felt bad because you got a sense of camaraderie for the characters. You really felt like they had gone on many adventures before, but you got no sense of camaraderie from you had and this isn't Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character. You had Antonio Banderas show up, who is supposedly another old friend of Indiana Jones, and you got no sense of camaraderie from that character to equal that of the introduction to Temple of Doom. And so it was kind of a missed opportunity. I would have liked to feel the same way about that character, but it wasn't. Indiana Jones at the beginning of the movie is kind of a loser. He's living in an apartment. Mutt, who is his son, Shia LaBeouf, joined up in Vietnam and got killed.
Oh, I was gonna ask why Shia wasn't in this one.
He dead.
They killed him off screen. What douchebags.
In between the two movies. And then Marion, his wife, who they got married in the last movie, has left him. They're separated. They're not quite divorced, but they're separated.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
And everybody says they're divorced. They're not divorced because he still has the papers, which means he hasn't signed them and returned them yet. Because they're still on the blue backs that you get as part of the official documents that are delivered to you. But Indiana Jones himself wouldn't be a poor loser in a tiny apartment in New York. He would have written several popular archaeological books, books about the Nazis' search for magical artifacts, and he could even have written volumes of quote unquote fictional stories about the Ark of the Covenant and his other, magical adventures that people wouldn't believe. That would have been, I mean, you remember the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. He could have written reams of books that he could have claimed were fictional about the actual adventures he had as a kid. And they would have been bestsellers from the famous Indiana Jones. And then fictional books about, hey, Ark of the Covenant and Nazis being burned, and fictional books about, hey, these 3 stones, these Sankara stones, and these evil guys, and how they burned through the bag, and hey, we also got the Holy Grail, and it, earthquake, and guy being aged early. He would have been a very successful author just based on relating quote unquote fictional stories, and then also written solid archaeological books about, popular archaeological books about. We see him teaching about a battle where the Romans were landing at um, the battle where Archimedes, and I can't remember the New York city that's also named the same as this battle. The Romans were landing, and Archimedes used mirrors to burn Roman ships, and so on and so forth. He would have been very prosperous as an author. Not an unknown. He starts as an unknown professor at a tiny college, and the students barely pay attention to him. That would not have been Indiana Jones even in 1969. It is a ridiculous way to start off the movie. And again, that seems like a Kathleen Kennedy note, because that's how Harrison Ford's character was Han Solo in The Force Awakens. That's how Luke Skywalker was in The Last Jedi. And now that's how Han Solo is. They're broken down. Their families are gone. And they're complete losers. And it's just not plausible. And it's not how the story should end. It's not how the story should begin. Han Solo should, or Indiana Jones should be with Marion, and he should be famous and successful, and he should have a comfortable life, and he's drawn into this one last adventure, even though he's old, for very important reasons having to do with the Dial of Destiny. And that's how the story should begin, and that's how the story should progress, is this successful Indiana Jones going on a final adventure 20 years after he basically retired from adventuring. And he should be Indiana Jones, not, a regular schlub.
Yeah,
And Phoebe
this is sort of.
WallerBridge.
I'll say this is sort of evidence against your claim that it isn't what everybody expected it would be, or at least my interpretation. It sounds like they did do The Force Awakens with the character, uh, making him miserable like that at the beginning. It's a shame.
Yeah, but during the movie, he's still Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
He still does the things he's supposed to do. It's just that there's also this sidekick character who's just as good as him. Not better than him, but just as good as him. And there's never a sidekick character that's just as good as Indiana Jones. Ever.
Right.
There never should be. They shot, I'm assuming at the behest of the studio, an ending. Apparently they shot 6 different endings, but they shot an ending where Phoebe Wallerbridge takes Indiana Jones's hat and puts it on.
Oh dear.
Because there was supposed to be like a passing of the torch where she was going to become, the next Indiana Jones. But thankfully, that never made it to screen. That is not the ending that's in the movie.
That's weird. I thought Shia. I thought they passed the torch to Shia at the end of the Crystal Skull. I wonder what happened there.
No, he picked up the hat and was going to put it on, but Indy grabbed it from him and was like, no, 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 and put it on his head and walked out with Marion. So, no, there was no passing of the torch at the end of the Crystal Skull. And the only good part of the Crystal Skull was Marion and Indy getting married. And they should have been married at the start of this movie.
Yeah.
But again, spoilers, at the end of the movie, the ending they went with, she does return to him, and Indy does take his hat back. And he does have his hat. It is not passed on to some other character. And they reignite their marital passion in a discreet way.
A discreet and geriatric way.
Well, they don't show it on the screen, but, they're very definitely reigniting their marital passion. In a way that, kids won't understand, but adults are like, oh. Well, that's nice. So, I mean, the ending that they went with, is a good ending for Indy. They didn't screw him over. They didn't screw him over like they screwed Han Solo over. They didn't screw him over like they screwed Luke Skywalker over.
I'm genuinely surprised. I mean, Han Solo said, yeah, I'll do Star Wars only if you kill me off. Surprised he didn't do the same with Indy.
And in these movies where, the new protagonist is made to look great for the especially female protagonist, you're never allowed to save them, ever. You can't ever save them because of the princess rule, right? It's damsel in distress. You can't do that.
Right.
That is not done in this movie. Indy is allowed to save, the female character. And immediately after, the female character also saves Indy. So James Mangold is really trying to work with the restrictions that he's given. He's really trying to not make what Hollywood modern movies want him to make, what Kathleen Kennedy wants him to make. And so when all these people on Twitter and other places say, this isn't a modern movie, they're using different words, of course. This isn't a modern movie. This isn't one of those. And I wish I could remember names of those movies, but they're so forgettable, they go out of my mind already. I can't even hate them enough to remember them, to use them as examples, but but you know what I'm talking about. Here's a brand new female character, and they're just as good as, Terminator Genesis. Good example. I think it was Terminator Genesis that was a good example. Where they're superhuman and they're never challenged by anything, and everything they do is right, and all the old characters are showed up and are made to look super crappy just so the new character can look good, and they're never in any trouble, and they can never be saved by anyone else, and they're always abrasive, right? They're always abrasive and rude because that shows strength. He's really trying hard not to make that kind of movie, and so he's dancing around all these things, and unfortunately, it's not that kind of movie, but it has enough of it to just not quite work. So
all of the bad press, all of the everybody not going to see it, all well deserved, in your opinion.
Yes. And all these people who are saying it's exciting and great,
Are full of
an indie movie. It is not true. It is not an indie movie. It is not exciting and great. The car chase in Tangiers that you see, Indy is genuinely allowed to be a hero. He yells at Phoebe WallerBridge, "I know Tangiers," and it's a perfect setup for her to embarrass him by pointing out that this is a modern city. He hasn't been here in 20 years, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen even the slightest. He's shown to be knowledgeable. He gets to the city, but the chase just goes on way too long. It needed to be cut down short. It needed to be cut down to much shorter than it is. It's not that there aren't individually exciting moments. It's that it just goes on way too long. You were saying that there was a fight in John Wick that went on way too long.
Mm-hmm.
Which I didn't feel like, or maybe I felt like it, but I didn't care because the fight was so great. This goes on way too long. It way overstays its welcome. And again, it's another chase in a city, which we just had in New York. And it's not like the New York chase was bad. It's just we didn't need two chases in a city. Especially when we also had another foot chase in the roofs of New York. They're just too similar, just too same. One of those three needed to be cut, and the Tangiers car chase needed to be short. One of those three chases needed to be removed from the movie entirely, and one of them needed to be cut way down. There are good things in this movie. There are good action scenes in this movie. The diving scene where they dive into the ocean is fabulous. I really loved it. I love the concept of it. I love the execution of it. It's great. Again, it's a little long. They could have done the ticking time a little bit better to make it more thrilling, to make the audience feel more nervous. But it was still good. I liked it. The main villain was kind of flat. He could have used some more personality. His henchmen are great. I loved the henchmen. They had just enough characterization to be who they were, and just enough characterization that you really hated them. and they were good villains to hate. I mean, you hated them as bad guys the way you're supposed to hate bad guys. They weren't boring or intrusive bad guys.
Got it.
Some bad guys, you're just like, oh my hell, is this guy showing up again? Get him out of the movie. These bad guys were like, I really wanted you to kill these guys. I want them to die. So it's not like there's nothing bad in the movie. It's just that there's enough stuff going on that weighs it down. And what weighs it down is missed emotional beats. Phoebe WallerBridge should not be seen as a noble character. She should be a Benny. If they're going to make her be this slimy person who steals from Indy and sets him up, and I'm talking about Benny from The Mummy. Everybody remembers The Mummy, right?
Yep. I remember Benny from The Mummy.
Benny from The Mummy.
Slimy, great character.
Great character. Slimy comic relief. She starts off as a slimy character. She should kind of stay a slimy character throughout the movie. You shouldn't feel sympathy for her. You shouldn't try to rehabilitate her later in the movie unless she really does something to deserve it. And she never does something to deserve it. She never redeems herself. And they try to shift to make her a sympathetic character or to make her, a co-heroine, a co-hero, and she never deserves it. There's nothing she does to deserve it. So definitely she never deserved to pick up the hat, and I'm glad they got rid of that part of the movie. So I think Kathleen Kennedy just has a tin ear for characters. She just has a tin ear for characterization, for emotional beats. She has this idea of what she wants to do to push certain viewpoints in her movies, and they just don't work because she's more concerned with the viewpoints than she is with making good characters in a solid movie. And she just needs to stop. Or I don't think she can stop. She just needs to be taken out of the position she's in, out of the power she's in over Lucasfilm movies, because she's run the studio into the ground. There's nothing left for Lucasfilm. She's ruined everything Lucasfilm has. There's nothing left in their cupboard. She's ruined it all. She's a very heavy-handed producer. Her agenda is tops. She maintains tight rein on the directors and on the scripts, and she has to be a nightmare to work with. And I think James Mangold rebelled against it as much as you can and still make a good movie. And I think that everything in this movie that went wrong clearly has the stamp of Kathleen Kennedy, because it's everything that went wrong, not just in previous Lucasfilm movies, but also in Lucasfilm video games. The single player campaign in Battlefront 2 by EA, which was a fun, as a video game, the video game parts were fun. The story was really heavy-handed and obnoxious. The villain in the first Jedi Knight Survivors prequel, in the first one, which was Jedi Knight something or other, I can't remember the name of the game. The single player story had a villain who really fell into this. All of the other video games that ended up with brunette female protagonists. There's another one that's coming out that I can't remember the name of, but the entire brunette protagonist and the theme of the story is I'm a woman who's been held back my entire life, and here's my chance to shine. I mean, that's almost autobiographical the way Kathleen Kennedy sees her life. So it is that's just the theme she constantly pushes. I'm a woman who's been held back my entire life, and now it's a chance to really show what I am. And unfortunately, she's been too inculcated with just this agenda she's pushing to really make the most of the opportunity she's been given.
It's a shame, and Disney doesn't care. You know, she would have been removed a long time ago after Star Wars flopped.
I really think Kathleen Kennedy is very, very good at politics. She's very, very good at setting up Disney in a lose-lose situation. If Kathleen Kennedy goes, if she leaves Disney, she's going to burn that place to the ground. She's going to dump all the dirt about what goes on at Disney, and she's going to portray herself as the female executive who was unjustly fired. And look at all the groundbreaking, progressive things she did to advance the cause of all of these groups. And she has outmaneuvered the CEO of Disney to where she's made herself basically unfireable. If any CEO that fired her would get themselves scorched, and socially and career wise, they would be burned in Hollywood forever. They would be absolutely anathema. They would be untouched. I think they might reach Mel Gibson levels of hated in Hollywood. I see the things she's done, and right after a big Star Wars flop, she announced a movie that had technically been canceled. But it was a big, great, or a Disney Plus TV series. It was a big, great TV series with, a female protagonist who is also a member of like 3 other protected groups. And she just set it out there and made herself basically unfireable at that point. And then she's continued those maneuverings behind the scenes. She is so good at office politics. She's so good at public relations. She is exactly the kind of person that never should have been put in her position, because she can never be taken out of her position. And I think the executives and the board of directors is in a very, very bad spot their own employees have required them to take positions that are fiscally bad for the company, that is financially bad for the company, and on the threat of strikes or of people leaving the company who they literally can't replace right now. And we're seeing a race between bankruptcy and replacing these people. And it's an open question who's going to win, bankruptcy or the employees who are pushing them into doing things like what they did in Florida.
I mean, if we're still talking about Disney, they're not going out of business anytime soon. I wouldn't expect it to happen even in our lifetimes. That's my prediction. But they sure will kill off Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios and everything else. Pixar. Yeah, we didn't mention that earlier when we talked about the box office. Pixar, their quality's declined steadily since Toy Story 3, and the box office is really killing them. They're spending
Elements or Elementals or whatever it was, huge disaster. Strange World, even bigger disaster. The
Lightyear, total bomb.
Yeah, Lightyear, absolute bomb. The previous two movies, I think there were two movies in between Lightyear and Strange World, were so bad they went straight to Disney Plus. That's Red and something else. I mean, Pixar used to be a mark of quality. You used to be able to just go to a Pixar movie unseen because you knew it was quality. They fired their main story guy over what seems to have been spurious accusations of gross sexual misconduct that weren't actually sexual misconduct. He was just a hugger. He said hi and he hugged everybody, male and female. And they used that as, accusations of sexual harassment to eject him. And he was their talent. He was their story guy. And everybody who moved up in his wake has proven to be disastrous. They just can't make stories like he made stories. And then they went heavy into agenda, and audiences have just walked away. And I liked the Magic movie. I liked the Wizard movie, but apparently it's really disliked by a large segment of people who really, really, really disliked it. And it didn't do so well at the box office. I don't think it outright flopped. I don't think it lost money, but it definitely was not as big a moneymaker as Pixar's previous movies. So it's part of what you said was a gradual decline. Toy Story 4 made money, but it was an awful movie. And I think it set up future Toy Story movies to actually start flopping, which, that's a Star Wars level ruination event. If you ruin the Toy Story movie enough to where it starts losing money, you have really achieved something right there. That is an accomplishment. That is a great accomplishment. And I use great not in the sense of good, but great in its original sense of, impressive, big. So,
well,
yeah.
I think it's a shame, but it is what it is, and that's one of the reasons why even Pixar, I when we were earlier in the chat, we were talking about tells or signs that you're about to get low quality entertainment. I'm not going to put any faith or anything in anything Disney produces, even if it's Pixar, even if it's this or that. These sorts of marks of quality have become anti-marks of quality. But we should probably wrap up because I'm not sure there's anything else to say about that.
Yeah, I'm done. I just the precise on Indiana Jones 5 is Indy is allowed to be Indy. but he's got another character who's allowed to be indie right beside him, and she's phenomenally unlikable and not a hero and never redeems herself. So it makes the movie, emotionally speaking, a mess, and you're never going to feel like it's an Indiana Jones movie, just on a gut level.
Right.
And people say it's great. I don't know what movie they watched. It's a mediocre movie. I'm
And
done.
and we'll wrap up. I just want to go
Oh,
back
we have an
over.
announcement.
We have an announcement. Oh, about the show scheduling.
Yep.
Yeah, we are. We probably aren't going to be on next Saturday, and we are probably moving the live show. It's looking like it's going to be Mondays. We're going to free up our weekends and yours. And so look for that coming up. I don't know if we're doing this Monday or we're just anyway.
So what we're doing is we're going to be recording the live show on Mondays, and then we're going to be posting the show to YouTube and to SoundCloud on Saturdays. So you will be absolutely getting a new Geek Gab when you expect it every Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, to download to your devices, whatever. But those of you who want to catch a live show, if you can, we're going to be doing it Monday nights. And that's because Saturdays have become untenable due to real life events. And we have to work out if we're going to be able to record this Monday. If we do, I will throw up announcements on Twitter and stuff. We expect but we expect to be releasing shows every Saturday exactly at the same time. So you will be able to receive the show when you expect it. It just won't be a live show.
That's it. So looking forward to it. That's it. That's all I have for today. I hope we get some people show up for that live show on Monday. That'll be fun to do. And that's it for me this week. We had some fun chatting in the chat about Disney and RPGs and whatever. So that was a lot of fun. And I hope everybody listening later really enjoys the conversation and Warpig's reviews on these summer blockbusters as in bombs. But I'm done for this week. Daddy Warpig, take it away.
I want to thank everyone for listening live, and I want to thank everyone who will listen later. This has been Geek Gab for Saturday, July 8th, 2023. You can catch us on SoundCloud.com. You can catch us on the Google Play Store. You can catch us on the Apple iTunes Store. Just do a search for Geek Gab, or on YouTube.com/Geek Gab. Once again, that's YouTube.com/Geek Gab. We're going to have a show go up just about every Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And if you absolutely want to know when those get released, go ahead and subscribe. And you will get the announcements for both the live show. And click the bell icon, apparently. You'll get the announcements for both the live show and for when the regular show goes up. We are signing out for today. But don't you worry. Don't you fret. We will be back.